this group and all to play for, as you can see there. And this one is going to go right down to those final games between Belgium and Ukraine and Slovakia against Romania. Winner takes all. And that's exactly what we want from tournament football. And it's not just that. What we wanted to see was the real Belgium, Lisa. And I think maybe we might have gotten a glimpse of them there tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the performance and you look at the score and you look at the chances they created. They were, in theory, comfortable, but it was edgy. Like, even all the way up until they scored in, I think, the 79th minute, they got the second goal. You still always felt that Romania had a chance to get into the game because they were so dangerous on the counter-attack, and they did create some good chances from those opportunities. More so in the second half than they did in the first half. And then when they got the second goal, obviously that settles them again, and you know, they could almost freewheel into the final whistle. But certainly I felt that there was a better energy about them tonight. I think they learned, you could see tactically, technically, they had learned lessons from their opening game against Slovakia, and I felt that they showed a bit more of their quality, and some of their big players stepped up today and had big performances. Doku was really good, Kevin De Bruyne was really good, Lukaku, even though he didn't get a goal, he still was very influential in a lot of their attack and play. So, and their back four were quite solid. They still have issues in the left back position, which probably will become, you know, pose them more difficulties as the tournament progresses. But there was you know, you could see the difference in the quality between Belgium and Romania in that game today.
There's a difference in their body language on the pitch here as well, Richie. I think maybe they'll feel that sense of tension has been released a little bit now. They're on the board. Maybe they'll have, you know, a sense that destiny will be in their own hands now. And there's definitely an element of that with these Belgian players, that they needed that performance.
Yeah, I think the result obviously was the main thing, but they repeated some of the positive aspects of their opening performance. But as Lisa said, added to it in so many ways. I think the changes the coach made were effective. They were more solid in the left-hand side defensively. They were more dangerous on the right-hand side in attack. And all over the pitch, Lisa's right, there was an edginess to it, as in you never felt it was done and dusted. You never thought Romania were out of it. You never thought the result was settled. So it was really good to watch. As a spectacle, it was really good, but it was a performance of authority, really, from Belgium. They gave the kind of performance that their reputation and the rankings that we spoke about beforehand suggest that they should do. So much happier camp afterwards.
What about Romania then? Because as you said, they were in it and they might be kicking themselves that, you know, at the end of this here, they still were in the game, you know, and that to not take anything, they might just be kicking themselves slightly. Yeah,
I suppose, put yourself in that dressing room before a ball was kicked last week. Like, what do you think the realistic expectations were? But they're now sitting at a table where they are top.
Yeah, on goal
going
difference.
Into the final game, playing a fixture that they could see themselves picking up points in. So a draw will be enough for them. So I think they'll still see this is a wildly successful campaign so far, albeit tonight. They were outplayed for a lot of that game. They created chances which they'd be pleased with, but I don't think they can walk off the pitch tonight and think that there was more out there than the result that they got. It was a fair result.
That's fair, but they might still go into the last game and say, we've got a chance of making a knockout stage at a major tournament, which is an unbelievable position.
Of course they will. And they will, because you can still see how dangerous they are in the counter-attacking moments. And, you know, even as much as we saw that Romania, or that Belgium had learned lessons and dealt with the counter-attacks in the first half, you could still see that they were more effective at it in the second half. So they're good at what they do, really, really good at what they do. And they're also a high-energy team. They don't give up. There's a lot of self-belief in that group now. They really play for each other. And like with players like Stanciu and Mann and Dragus, like they've got real quality players. They're very technically very good. And they still have that capacity to punish you. Even if you can't get into the box, they can punish you from, you know, that outer area. So many of their goals came from long-range efforts in the qualifying campaign. So I still think they'll absolutely fancy their chances of you know, getting a result against Slovakia and getting out of the group.
I think it's still a phenomenal performance from where they are. Can you imagine the Romanian public at home? I don't know what the media are saying. We spoke before about what some of the past players are saying. But the resultant performance they got on day one, that's heroic stuff from them all. That's like career-defining performance at international level from all them players. And they could go one further the next time by getting a point or a win that puts them through. So I wouldn't imagine confidence is affected. I wouldn't imagine morale is too low. They were put in a good shift tonight against a team that have quality in areas all over the park that they just don't. And they got what they deserved tonight, given the performance of Belgium and the gap in quality. But I can't imagine they'd be heads down for too long in that dressing room. They've a phenomenal opportunity next week.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a cracking one to look forward to with that game, and of course Belgium against Ukraine as well. Looking forward to what should be a cracking final round of games in that one. Let's look at that second half, Richie, because I think Romelu Lukaku might wonder, am I ever going to score a goal of this tournament that is not going to be ruled out for offside? This one tighter than any of them.
He was my pre-tournament tip to be top scorer. I've now just abandoned that.
Not just yours.
It's just not going to happen. Like, what a perfectly weighted pass by De Bruyne along the ground, cut the defence open, right in the path of Lukaku. But this is what we're looking at, the tip of his kneecap. Like, when you have technology as specific or as accurate as this, calls like this are going to happen. And you can argue about the rights and wrongs about it, or whether it's fair or not, or whether he's lucky or not, but we're now in the world where we have to just say it is a correct decision.
It is, and that's the thing. I mean, Lisa, I know you're involved in FIFA, and you're looking at the ball and you're saying, oh, the technology, it's brilliant. But when we're in the baby toe scenario, I think people are going, oh, just give it to him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's like, you always kind of want to favour the attacker, but, you know, you still want the right call.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, by the letter of the law. And that's what the technology, I think, is there to back up the rules so that the rules are applied correctly. And look, I mean, it's margins, the finest of margins there. But like, what's good about the technology is it only took 58 seconds for them to actually make that decision. So, you know, at least with the semi-automated technology, you don't have the VAR officials drawing lines or anything like that. This is really quick. The chip in the ball, the cameras around. As soon as it happens, they're able to get it right down to the frame. So it gives you a great accuracy. And look, it's the right call.
You hear the term fine margins used a lot in elite sport in particular, and you go through the three goals that he had that was been disallowed, because he's going to get stick if you go another game and he hasn't scored. It'll be another tournament where he's, you know, fluffed his lines at the most crucial point. But the opening goal in the last game, narrowest the margins of offside. The second one, they needed the snickometer, machine I hadn't seen used before in football, to pick up the deftness of the touch of a handball of a teammate. And tonight, the length of his toe.
Do you know the other thing is, though? Some of the finishes are unbelievable.
That's what I mean. But they're got, so he is...
He's not getting that credit.
Yeah, and he won't, because of what went before. But like, so he is a goal scorer that's in good form in front of goal. He's hit the net more times than anyone else. Unfortunately, none of them count. I mean, so he's now a striker who's in leading an attack of a excellent midfield and decent team who hasn't scored in tournament football, which is a hell of a swing.
But I think, to be fair to him, the role he played for the team tonight was really, really good. And sometimes you need a player to play that selfless role where they're almost taking one for the team. He drags defenders away. You look at the amount of defenders, they're behind him, they're beside him, they're in front of him, trying to stop him from getting the ball, trying to stop him from turning. When you get that concentration of players around him, he knows and Belgium know that frees up other players. And you've got players of the quality of Doku, Kevin De Bruyne coming in, Tielemans coming on from deeper in midfield. Then Belgium were smart, and he was good like that today. And like I said, I talked at the start of the game about his mindset sometimes and his mood. And the key thing for him is just to keep focused and keep doing what he's doing, because within the dressing room, regardless of all the noise that will be outside, within that dressing room, he'll know and that team will know that he put in a really important shift for the team tonight in terms of the creation of the chances. And you could see at the end, the lads were even trying to play him in when they were probably in better positions to score or whatever. I think the Trossard one right at the end where he squares it across, and he just probably should take that himself. But that shows you that there is a connection between the players and that they're willing him to score as well. But look, you keep doing as a centre forward, you keep doing what you're doing, and the goals will eventually come. And hopefully, by he'll get the margin.
And the performance there, like from the first minute, we're obviously trying to always assess what's the impact in a tournament situation of your opening game going badly, losing the opening game? How often do we hear people say that's just the one thing you want to avoid? They not only lost their opening game, but it was the biggest shock.
Yeah.
And so they would have taken a lot of criticism. But tonight's performance didn't give any indication that there was splits in the dressing room. Nobody leaked any kind of criticism or silly comments to the press. No one had to go with the manager. The manager wasn't too critical of players. And it was just a very kind of confident, assured response to what might have put a lot of pressure on other teams with less experience.
That said, it still took them until 10 minutes to go to get that insurance goal that they definitely needed to win the game, Lisa.
Yeah, it did, and it has a touch of Shane Long against Germany. A lovely, what do they call it? Long pass. You know, a great long pass. I think Burke probably gets a little touch on it that just favours De Bruyne and Dragic.
I think Shane Long's finish was a little bit nicer than De Bruyne's there.
Maybe so, but you know, it's that like, you know, direct football, and that's what you say. Like, you've got to be able to mix it up and not be overly purist about it. A goal is a goal, but De Bruyne, the strength he shows there up against Dragic, you know, he makes sure he gets there, and he attacks the ball really early. That's what I loved about that. He attacked the ball really early and made sure, because he could see that Nietzsche was coming out.
Now, on that, he attacks the ball, but his studs are up and he does connect with Nietzsche's knee. If that is anywhere out the field, is that a potential dangerous scenario where he's endangering his opponent, which we have seen as a red card?
For me, no.
I would hate if that was a scenario.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, I think there's a bit of time between when he actually gets the touch of the ball and Dragic is coming in late. So, you know, and you can see Dragic is already starting to turn and he's bending his knees. He knows the contact is coming, and he knows he knows that the touch has gone from De Bruyne, so he knows he's probably gone a little bit too early and misjudged the timing of it there. So for me, no, I think that he has every right to go for that ball.
I see why you'd asked the question,
Yeah.
though, because there's so many scenarios well out the field from a goal where you can win the ball, but your follow-through can cause damage to an opponent and you can be accused of being out of control or endangering the safety of your opponent. In that scenario, you can't fault him for going for the ball. You can say he could have prevented his natural momentum going because he was in full sprint by the time he got there and the goalkeeper came out. So the collision was inevitable. So I don't think you could question him. You surely can't penalise him at all. It's
very hard because even when you look at it, you're absolutely right. All his eyes are on the ball. He's going straight for the ball. I guess it's just when you look at it, it's the follow through. That slow motion in particular is what people see.
His shin pads earned their keep tonight. Yeah. They're it looked like a nasty challenge and it could have done a lot of damage, but I think it's just one of those scenarios. You go into certain tackles and you know you're putting yourself at risk, and that's part of goalkeeping. How often do we praise them for being brave? The goalkeeper was brave and he just took a wallop, but I don't think it's against the law or should be penalised at all.
That's absolutely fair, and look, credit to him because he had a brilliant game tonight. We'll look at his performance a little bit later on as well. What about Romania, Richie? Because we talked about them and what they got brought into the game, and before that De Bruyne goal went in, they had a lot of chances themselves.
They did, yeah. There was a threat there always because of this, because of their ability to break at pace. That was Mihaila there. Couldn't hit the target, and maybe if you're looking at reasons that they would be self-critical, it's just not hitting the target when they had the opportunity to do so, because the opportunities were so rare. That was Stanchu there. This is Man reacting really quickly to a loose header midfield, but not quick enough. I think he could have got the shot away quicker before allowing the defender back to put him under pressure. Should have beaten the keeper, obviously, but those are the moments which, if you look at goal difference, even a 2-1 defeat would have had a marked difference in the group table, which would have had a difference in how they approach the game, and which would have had an impact on whether a draw would certainly be enough to put them in the top two or whether it wouldn't be. So missed chances this game tonight, even though it wouldn't have impacted the result, could be massively significant.
And it's just that efficiency in front of goal that they showed in the previous game, that because you showed all those brilliant examples before the game of their counter-attacking, and when they were brilliant with the ball, just putting the ball in the back of the net could be costly, you know.
That's always the margin. Like, that's where the quality comes in, is you know, in the final third. Like I say, in tournament football, you're generally building your tournament momentum based on your ability to defend. If you can keep clean sheets and defend resolutely, you've always got a chance of winning the game. And then if you can convert when you get into the final third, that gives you the opportunity then to win the games. And I know that kind of is a bit like stating the obvious, but that's the difference in kind of when you're in qualifying versus when you're in the tournament, because it's about that short, sharp momentum, and the goals difference can be really crucial. So Romania, look, they have technically good players, and you look at Lukaku and his conversion rate to some of those lads and their conversion rate, like, you know, they had some decent chances. I actually think in some of those chances they snatched at them and took them a little bit earlier than they might have done, because there was a better intensity from Belgium pressing and getting players out and covering, because they knew the threats. Whereas I don't feel they experienced that level of intensity of pressing or counter pressing or pressure on the ball in the game against Ukraine.
The difference is with a Belgium, they generally are having more shots on goal, more shots on target, so inevitably they're going to find the back of the net more. I mean, they had 19 attempts tonight. When you look at some of their chances, they probably could have had more than these 2 goals. They are creating more and more opportunities. And
and as a head coach, you're always going to say, well, are we creating? If you're not creating, then you have a problem. But when you are creating, you have to believe that your players will have the quality. I mean, this one here, I think, is Doku, Kevin De Bruyne is involved, Lukaku as well. You know, they create good chances. They've got players who are so technically good in the penalty area. But that's what I say, like, I don't think they never looked like they were panicking. And that's what, like, you take Lukaku out of it, like, they get goals from other players. They're not reliant on him to get those goals. Like Kevin De Bruyne, Tielemans, you know, Doku is definitely capable of it. Luka Bacchio was good tonight when he was on. Okay, he didn't see out the whole game, but I do think they won't panic. And I think Tedesco, the manager, is really the type of... He will take the pressure off them in that respect. He's a process-driven type of head coach. We're doing the right things. If you keep doing the right things, eventually the things that you're looking for will come.
Well, it's easy for him to say that now when they're winning, but, you know, even before the tournament, he's leaving out Courtois, he's making big decisions for the group as well, Richie. And I know, you know, we were chatting about this off air, all of that happens when you see the results in front of you, and his career looks completely different, but he's been bold.
It's bold, and it's unfair, but this is the reality. If the team go on and do well, that boldness will be spun as correct, justified, and that he's his own man, and that he doesn't listen to the crowd, forgets the media, ignores reputations, and he's the kind of fella that everyone should now row fully behind, because he's demonstrated, because he can make a big call, keep the team behind him and succeed. But if they don't, none of that is the case. He will be accused of allowing his personality or stubbornness to get in the way and sacrificing the greater needs of the team because of his own ego or whatever
but
the
that's
most...
where the head coach has to have that conviction.
Exactly, that's where the most negative spin in it comes in.
But if you're a head coach, you have to be able to park all that and make those big decisions and have the conviction and go, right, I know what I'm doing here, this is what I'm doing. He's completely changed the shape of the team from the Roberto Martinez era. They were playing 3-4-3. You know, we've spoken about them, you know, sufficiently enough about being underachievers in major tournaments. But what he's done is he's changed the shape of the team. He's put players where he believes they still have a problem at left back, albeit, but he's made big calls. He made big calls by changing 4 players tonight. The players believe in him. He's big on the analysis, and he's really big on psychology. So, and I felt like you could see his stamp all over this team today compared to the game against Slovakia, because he made personnel changes. There was no moodiness. There was a much better energy about the team. They were much more aggressive out of possession. And tactically, you could see the little nuances and the little changes they had made in terms of their attack and play and in response to the threats that Romania would pose. And I think he's the second youngest coach in this tournament. You know, I think he's only 37, never played the game at the elite level. So I think he's got a lot of conviction. But as a head coach, you have to have that conviction and park the noise, and they're the decisions that you make, and you live and die by the decisions that you make as a head coach. But that's part of the job.
Yeah, but I think it probably helps if you've got world-class players as well. And when you look at the performance of someone like Kevin De Bruyne tonight, it's easy to stand up and say, yeah, we got it right, because this might be one of the most complete performances we've seen at the major tournament. Absolutely.
And when you're in tournament football, you can expect all the players are world-class and, you know, are at a high level. And De Bruyne, I mean, we speak about, I don't know how many years we're talking about this player. I could watch him all day. I just love the movement, his technical ability. But what impressed me most is how he gets into the pockets. So you can see all the time in all of these clips, he has that capacity to drift into space and makes himself available. And then he has, once he's in space, he has the technical ability to turn, take shots, to set teammates up. Again, look at him in the space he's after getting into. Great low ball across, and Doku just doesn't get on the end of it. This is the pass again. I mean, you see him doing this week in, week out for Manchester City. The timing and the vision that he has. He always plays into space, not necessarily to feet. So he plays into the space where he knows a player can run. And then he's a goal threat. He contributes goals. I mean, the amount of assists he has, he is an outstanding player. And when you've got a player like him in your team, anything can happen. He's got that capacity to produce the moment of magic that can be the difference.
And I think that's what bumps up the expectation. We spoke before about the validity of the rankings or whether you should take a blind bit of notice to them. They're still a team that is led by Kevin De Bruyne. And that in itself puts a weight of expectation on everyone else and a responsibility on him, but a responsibility on everyone else as well. But also will crank up the criticism if, yet again, they don't come out of the group. And like it's on a night, like there's very little between them now at the moment, so they're all, it's down to one game. So like Romania, as good as they were in the opening game, it could count for nothing if they have a bad game next week. As impressive as Belgium were tonight, it'll count for nothing if they have a bad day on Wednesday. Yeah, that's the joy of it all, isn't it? I think it's going to be brilliant to watch these games on Wednesday.